All right, guys, I'm gonna call First Baptist Church of Hammond to see if um, Robyn, Robyn's predator is still actively there.
Disclaimer: the We Are One podcast aims to shed light on the abuse experience within the independent fundamental Baptist Church. The stories shared are from survivors who bravely recount their personal experiences. It is important to note that unless an abuser has been convicted in a court of law, they are presumed innocent until proven guilty. The podcast does not serve as a legal judgment, but rather as a platform for survivors to share their truth.
Now let's get into today's episode. Here is your host, Olivia.
Welcome back to the We Are On podcast. To kind of like finish the Hyles series, I've covered Jack Hyles, Jack Schaap, and now I wanted to talk about where First Baptist Church of Hammond is now and what took place after, Schaap's like arrest and everything, and who came into play after the whole scandal. And I thought it would be a good idea to have Robyn on. Robyn was on season 1, episode 2, Landing Safely, where she talked a lot about her childhood at Hyles. She went in depth with like how they had photos of Jack Hyles in their living room growing up, and just like the idolization and just worshiping Hyles. And she also talked about the creepy old man. A lot of people always laugh when you said that. They're like, I love how she said it. I'm like, yeah, because that's what he is. And kind of like a little bit of what's going on behind the scenes also with Robyn. She actually just did and wrote a book, and it's right here. And so we're going to talk about that too, but I'm really excited to kind of just kind of catch up and talk a little bit about First Baptist Church of Hammond now, Hyles-Anderson College, and Pastor John Wilkerson, and all of that. So hi, Robyn. That was a long intro, but I'm excited to, talk with you.
Yes, me too. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. Everyone that's always like listened and stuff, they always say that, they have like specific people that they really relate to, but something that really stuck out the most was you, because one, not only did you overcome so much with your diabetes journey and becoming the first helicopter pilot female, and just overcoming so much with that, but also just, bringing awareness a lot about Hyles. You talked about how they would have little restaurants and you would, stuff like that. You went in more depth about Hyles. And a lot of people really appreciated that, just even bringing up things that may be simple to some people, but it's really traumatic to a lot of definitely, Hyles alumni and First Baptist Church, ex-members. So to kind of start off, Robyn, since recording in season 1, where have you been? How's life?
Great. It is great. I did just release this book last month called Fearless Flight. It's on Amazon. And I really wanted to focus on becoming a helicopter pilot and my aviation journey with type 1 diabetes. However, where I came from is very important, that is what I do now is a lot of times in getting more people involved in aviation and letting their careers take off, but knowing my journey, but especially where I came from, because so many people think, well, I didn't come from an aviation family, or I didn't come from money, or all the things. And so I put it all out there on where I came from. And yes, I was born into First Baptist Church of Hammond, got stuck going to college. And so I was wearing skirts every day until I was 22 years old. But just being able to break free from that, I wrote a book about my journey. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I am in the middle of reading it, and it's such a good book. And I think that, everyone who reads it also will get a better understanding about everything within your life and the background and what got you into, wanting to be a pilot. And I know you kind of shared a little bit on season 1 about what made you kind of show interest, but just in case, someone is stumbling upon this and they haven't heard your story yet, maybe talk about what made you get into the aviation and, helicopter background.
So I did not grow up with surrounded by aviation. In fact, well, if you've been following this podcast series for a while now, you know that we were very restricted in what we were able to do. And so when I was 16 years old, I met a man, and he was a pilot, and he was like, I flew in the Air Force. And I just remember looking out the window, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's what I want to be. And that is so cool. And when I was 16, he said, I'm going to teach you how to fly one day. And I was like, that is amazing. So obviously I had that connection of like, wow, well, this guy's going to help me out. I better stay close to him. And then I went to Hyles-Anderson College, which I did not want to. I tried to run away, and this is, I put all this information in the book, but I tried to run away to Texas and was told by the pastor, no, you need to go to Hyles-Anderson, and guilt tripping me into it. So I did. Well, that same man that was a pilot was working at the college. And so, and I was honestly, when I went to college, I was so mad at my parents. I was mad at my pastor. I didn't want to be there. I had felt freedom. I had seen freedom, and I just wanted to move to Texas and be away from it all. But nope, I went back to college, wore my skirts, and yeah, that's when it got worse. But go ahead.
And I know, like, you kind of talked about in season one, about the abuse that, you endured in by this pilot. Robyn, opened up a lot about what, made her, with the interest with aviation, but also just having that, I think, mentorship in a way that she never had. And, like when you're growing up in the IFB, I've always said that you always want your parents to be proud of you because you've always got taught that, hey, you obey, you listen. And so when your parents are not giving you that love that you deserve, and you're gonna seek it out in a way of like, oh, I want to make my Sunday school teacher proud by making her this, or knowing the Bible verse in Awana. It's like just simple things. And when you went to college, you kind of you basically were looking for like, hey, I know you said that you would teach me to be a pilot and stuff like that. And brother Ray Heifel is the creepy old man for any Hyle people out there. I know, Robyn, you were really hesitant in season one to drop names just because you didn't you were like, I want it to be about me. You don't want it to be about him in a way, right? Because he doesn't deserve any energy. He doesn't deserve any of that. But I also think it's very important, just in case if there is another survivor out there from him, because it doesn't just stop with one. With any predator, it doesn't matter. There's not just one offense. That's why they make you do a will you offend again test if you are registered. So Robyn, talk about, how did Ray, what was the grooming stages? What were the signs now looking, as an adult, that you look back and you're like, I missed it because I was vulnerable and I was, wanting a mentorship.
Right. It's so interesting just to see the last about 4 or 5 years, just how much I'm like, oh my gosh, like, how did I not know this was a thing? And like, and how they groom you. And so when I was my freshman year, I would be in trouble. I actually gained 50 pounds my freshman year of college, which is absolutely crazy. I was very sick as a type 1 diabetic. All that they were feeding me was cinnamon rolls, carbs, all the things. My skirts that were supposed to be down below my knees started getting higher. I was in trouble every single day for my skirts being too short. I was asked to change every day. I ended up wearing the same skirt every single day. It was a gray skirt with little pinstripes, I remember. But when the dean of women would even send me up to his office and be like, hey, talk to her. He was part of the discipline committee. So it was his responsibility to give punishment. And he would kind of jokingly spank me and be like, okay, just, be careful. And that was when I was 18. And for his smart on his part to be working at the college when he has a problem that we find out later. But then when I was 19, I just went to say hey up in his office, and he had, I think I shared this on the first episode, but he had a boner, and he grabbed my hand and was trying to put it on him, and I was like pulling my hand back, and I didn't even know what that was or how that happens. That is how innocent I was. I didn't have a cell phone. Like, I didn't know anything. We were very, very sheltered. It's crazy just to think about that now. But now that I have more information, I'm like, okay, so I was not the problem. But I went back to my dorm room that day, and I cried. And I cried, and I blamed myself, and I said, oh my gosh, I made a grown man sin. And this guy, keep in mind, he is 51 years older than me. That is disgusting. I'm sorry, but like, any girl does not need any first exposure to any sexual thing to be like, well, anybody, but somebody that much older than them that they think is like a safe place. Like, I didn't even old people have that problem. But that's how dumb I was, honestly. So yeah, so then he just, everybody knew I was close. The Gina women would constantly send me up to him. I think I shared, like, I lost 2 credits for going to a country line dancing place and just the silly things. But through my time at the college, he would just inappropriately touch me, and it got worse and worse. And but I also felt like he was my only person there. It was a very toxic, terrible situation. So yeah, and everybody knew, hey, you're close to him. Go talk to him or whatever. So anyway.
And how long did that go on?
4 years. Yeah.
And at the time, you shared, you didn't say anything just because,
well, I was expelled.
Yeah. And now, looking back, and you realize, like, okay, he was grooming me, and then he was, basically being a predator, with him, I don't even like saying his name, but with him, what kind of role did he have at First Baptist Church of Hammond? Just in case if someone's out there like, feel like that name sounds so familiar, but maybe he did something, what kind of roles did he do? Or
he worked in the bookstore, the bookshelf. I think it's called the bookshelf. It was a bookstore, and there was a coffee shop back there. They did teach something about aviation or something there. I don't know if he actually taught a class there. I don't know that he did, but so he wasn't a teacher. He was he was on the discipline committee, so he actually gave the punishments to the students for doing anything bad. Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
And wasn't he the one also who took Jack Schaap, or was that someone else?
He was his pilot.
Okay, that's what I thought. I thought he was Jack Schaap's pilot. Okay. I was like trying to remember. I'm like, I feel like you also kind of, said that, like, he took he was Jack Schaap's pilot, which also just red flag, right?
Absolutely. The corruption starts at the top every time. Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah. So I, for any, like, just to give context also about what we're about to, open up about, John Wilkerson is the pastor now at First Baptist Church of Hammond.
Let's congratulate Brother Wilkerson as the pastor of the First Baptist Church of Hammond.
He took over after Jack Schaap's scandal, or whatever you would like to say. Talk about your experience with Wilkerson.
Well, honestly, when he first came, he was, we always looked up to the pastor. He was great. And honestly, I've had a lot of respect for him up until more recently, when I was 28 years old, just because I think I shared this on my first episode. So I could let my parents see that this is a disgusting place. I shared what happened to me with them. And anyway, they took us to Wilkerson, and we were kind of trying to see, like, what he did about it. And he talked to me on the phone. This was about 3.5 years ago, and I had to go into detail about stuff. And it was very awkward and disturbing. And he actually wanted to have a three-way call with the three of us, and I was like, no way. Um, anyway, so he called in Highfield to his office. Highfield admitted to everything, and I guess he had two choices. I don't know what they were, but he ended up packing up his office and he left the school, and he was no longer on staff. And I was like, wow, okay, at least he's not there anymore. So should I keep going or?
Yeah, you can keep on going. Yep.
Okay, so that was I was 28 years old at that time. And but since then, somebody else has posted, which she wants to be anonymous, which is crazy how the fear that she has. She's much older than I am. And she found something on Highfield's computer that should have sent him to jail. This has happened in between 95 and 2001. And just blows my mind because this could absolutely put him in jail, put him in prison. But no, he's out there. And the staff that she did tell shushed her up and said, no, that's not what you saw. And he was studying for a sermon illustration, as they said. So that was pretty interesting. But where we are today is was writing this book. It was supposed to be published March 1st. And just a few days before I sent it off, I was looking for the Hyles-Anderson College rule book of the bizarre like skirt rules and everything. And so I had asked about it. And then I was like, I'll just find it myself. So I looked online at Hyles-Anderson College's website, which is definitely updated. And I was like, let me just look under the staff, and that he is listed as a staff member. So immediately my first response was I started crying. I was angry. I was pissed off that they would do that after I came forward. It was like, hey, he does not need to be here. And I thought Wilkerson did the right thing. I was upset. That was my first response. But then I was like, no, that is my past. I am going to find out what's going on for them. Those innocent little 18-year-old kids over there that are honestly pretty dumb, innocent. Because I was that kid. So anyway, so I found out that he is back on staff. So I was like, I'm going to find out for myself. And I did see another picture of one of my friend's moms up there. So I sent her a message like, hey, does she work there? And apparently she didn't have enough students this semester. So I was like, okay. Anyway, so I called the college. A sweet little girl answered. It was a Friday night. And she said, he is not here. He works 8 to 4 Monday through Friday. And I was like, okay, I'll call back. Well, then I want everything on record. So I'm texting Wilkerson, and I can share that here. And I was like, why would you let him? I will take what needs to happen and get investigators involved. And he was like, you have false information, blah, blah, blah. I apologize. I want to do right by you and all this stuff. So anyway, I think that was like a whole nother week later. It was a Saturday now, and Wilkerson tells me that I have false information. So I had to call again. So it's a Saturday, which I don't really want to speak to him on the phone, but I called the college. I said, hey, I would like to speak to Ray Highfield. Probably bad on me for calling him Ray on the phone instead of brother. But they said he's not here right now. And I was like, okay, can you transfer me to his office, please? And the phone went quiet as if two people were talking in the background. And I was like, can you transfer me? Does he have an office? Trying to get information. And then the phone hung up and it went beep, beep, beep. And then I called immediately right back, and it rang. So they knew at this point, obviously I had called 3 times. I was on to them, and I didn't block my number or anything. I just was curious. And anyway, so it's just very disturbing, and I lost a lot of respect for Wilkerson, and I just think he's as corrupt as the rest of them. So back to you.
Yeah. Olivia thought it would be beneficial for this episode to take it upon herself to call First Baptist and Hyles-Anderson College to see if Robyn's predator is still around vulnerable people. Well, hear for yourself in the next clip. Hi, I was just wondering if I could get a hold of Brother Highfield, please.
If it's Mr. Highfield,
yeah,
he would be at the college.
Oh, okay.
That's funny because I'm pretty sure he was removed. I'm just gonna go ahead.
I'd be like, oh, so this is what you guys are doing. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Hyles-Anderson College. How may I direct your call?
Hi, I am trying to get a hold of Brother Highfield.
Okay. He is not essentially employed here anymore, but volunteers in the bookstore. So I'm not sure that he has any kind of set schedule. But let me transfer you there for further help.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
We volunteers.
So, can I help you?
Hi, is Brother Highfield there?
He is not. He should be here in the morning. He's usually here from about 9 to 11.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Bye.
My pleasure, like they're Chick-fil-A employees.
They kind of are. They pretty much all are. But okay, 9 to 11, that's not as bad as working 8 to 4, Monday through Friday. But
the fact that he's still like, I love how she had to add, well, he's not officially employed, but he volunteers.
That's hilarious. Very interesting. They knew a couple weeks ago I was onto them.
That's a lot.
However, that's the thing about all the volunteers, even if they have molested people and stuff and have bad things on their computers, like they are back. And it's because they're volunteering, and they don't care to put the people that are there in danger of any sort. They don't care about that. They do care though, which that goes into the they're getting volunteers because of financial reasons. Ding ding ding.
Yeah. No, Wilkerson is very corrupt. And I think throughout the decades, he really has proven where he draw the line in the sand. And for anyone out there that is a survivor from the IFB world, definitely Hyles and First Baptist Church of Hammond. You have Wilkerson standing up talking about how.
And so I want to give you this statement if I can. It's important to acknowledge that any statement that we provide will never offer full healing to the mental, the spiritual, the physical, or the emotional harm that's been caused in 136 years of ministry by a few. We can't say enough about that. There's nothing we can say that will fix that. However, we want to be clear. Number one, we grieve and have great remorse for any victim of abuse. Number two, we abhor the abuse in any fashion. I hate it. It makes me sick. And it should make anybody who loves Christ grieved. We acknowledge a lifelong harm that abuse has caused in the lives of people who have had it happen to them. It's not something a one and done. There are challenges that carry on for a lifetime. We are committed to providing a safe place for men, women, and children to worship our Lord Jesus Christ. According to our policies, I cannot speak for 13 decades of our ministry since 1887 and November the 28th when 12 people signed the charter. But I can speak to this current leadership that we have taken every allegation seriously and will continue to report any allegations of abuse to proper authorities. It is our firm belief that the church family should be a place where people are loved and accepted and where victims are supported. I believe what I shared with you is the consensus of any church member at First Baptist Church. It's not meant to be terribly specific. It's meant to be general and biblical. And I want to thank you. And
he wants to do better. He wants, he feels so sorry for, the past, and he's trying to change things or whatever, but his words and actions do not add up. He's just standing up there saying it, so then he looks like he's just Superman, but in reality, he's no better than Eddie Lapina and all of them that are on staff that know things that take place, whether that happened now or 10 years ago or even more, 20 plus years. I've talked to so many survivors that have said that they have had firsthand experiences trying to talk with Wilkerson. Like, hey, you say you want to change things. You want to, you don't want to have that reputation from what Jack Hyles did and Jack Schaap, all of that. But nothing is changing because you can say, oh, yeah, we fired him. But, and this is where I'm going to put the clip. I just called to see if, brother Hyphil is there. And they just said that he volunteers at the book shelf or whatever you would like to say from 9 to 11, and the fact that he is even just remotely allowed to be on campus is just, it speaks volumes that you have Robyn and probably so many others out there that have had abuse from others too. Like, how many people are walking around still volunteering or being a deacon or being a trustee or just being around that are predators, like I strongly believe that once a predator always a predator, and I really don't believe that there's any when predators that are in prison and they're like, I found Jesus, I would never do that, I found Jesus, he made whatever. I don't believe that. I feel like if they are going to offend, they will. I don't believe that they can just miraculously be changed. I think that something fundamentally is wrong with you if you think abusing and touching kids and young, whatever. I think that something fundamentally is wrong with you, a chemical imbalance or something that I don't think will ever be fixed here on earth. I just truly believe that. And you have Wilkerson basically telling survivors, I'm here for you, but I'm not here for you, because he's still putting these people in these positions in this predicament. Like, how would he feel if he knew that Hyphil did something to a girl, like in the bookshop? Like, how would, you know what I mean? Like, how? And I just don't understand it. And Wilkerson has a lot of kids, and I'm like, you're a parent first and foremost. You're a parent, you have a child. Put yourself in those survivors. What about if that's my kid?
Yeah.
I've always said that. I've always looked at every single person who makes excuses for the IFB and say that these people are good, godly people. And it's like, these people are not good, godly people if they were. And like, I just got in a Facebook argument with someone. I literally said, John Wilkerson is a scumbag. He is. I think he is. Nobody will change my opinion on it. He picked the First Baptist Church of Hammond for one reason, because he knew that the ministry that he took on was too big for what he could handle. But it fit his agenda, because if you can't publicly, with your words and actions, stand out against, it's because you agree privately. And I feel like he has proven over and over and over as time has gone on, whether that's just speaking with survivors firsthand or people just coming out with a statement saying, hey, I wrote Wilkerson a letter, I called him up. And what did he do? He gaslit me and said that he was going to do things, change things, and nothing changed. April, when she did the protest, she, wrote them a handwritten letter like, hey, this is what's going to happen. This is going to be a peaceful protest. We're inviting you to come out and join us, if you're saying you're going to change. And you have Wilkerson in the next clip.
I have been asked and been given a paper and an open letter that's asked us to come and present ourselves to the protesters and stand there without saying anything and allow them just to tell us their perspective of us, and we're supposed to stand there and take their opinions of our church. I don't think it's probably the best plan, and I don't think it's what we're going to do. If any of them would like to talk to us and talk to our folks who handle this on a daily basis, we'll be glad to do that. But I think the open forum on the sidewalk is probably not the best way to do that. So we're not going to go that direction. And it's not to be unkind, but I just feel like it's not prudent to do that for our church. And so we'll be glad to entertain other conversations.
Saying, we're not going to do that, I feel sorry, and people, you need to pray for them out there, but we're not going to do that, and we're not, we're supposed to stand out there and take it. No, what you're supposed to do as a godly man and who was called to be a preacher supposedly and took that oath under God's name, I think the most respectful thing would have been going out there, hey, I want to do a moment of silence with all of you. I'm so sorry. How can I pray for you? And be genuine. But standing up there reading some letter that you received, first off, is just rude, I feel like, and just insane that he did that. But two, to tell everyone, like, no, this is what we're not going to do. It just proves that they still move in some certain way that the Hyles did. You know, I've always said that Jack Hyles is very much dead, but he's still very much alive because the fundamentals in that church and in the IFB in general will always be there. And Wilkerson is no better than Stacy Shipflet and, oh gosh, all these other pastors who say we're independent fundamental Baptists, but we're not like Hyles. You are like Hyles. You're covering up. Like, congratulations, you removed, like you said, Robyn, you removed him, but you didn't remove him. You removed him for a little bit, but he's still volunteering. It takes one thing for him to be like, oh man, he shouldn't have been volunteering.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I don't know how long he's been there. I've been out of the game. Like, I have not, if I wasn't writing a book about to launch it, I would not have ever known that he worked there, honestly. So it's very interesting. I don't know how long he's been there.
Yeah.
And
And it's like a full circle moment too, because when I was preparing for Hyles, I was like, I obviously want to talk about where is First Baptist Church of Hammond. A lot of people probably know that it's still up and running. It's not as big, like they're not running as much like numbers wise, like what it used to be. And I think it's just because with the documentaries and people coming out and speaking out against it, I think, the blinders are coming off slowly, but I do think that. And I do know that there was other members that have started another church that have left and started their own church up there too. So I think that was probably also another reason why the numbers aren't as, huge compared to when it was like with Jack Schaap and other things. But there is still a good chunk of people in the IFB that still go to First Baptist Church of Hammond. And they're, I look at them, they are very innocent and very brainwashed. And when you have older people that have been in the church for decades, right? They're like, oh, they did that with Jack Hyles, they did it with Jack, there's always an excuse. And it's like, you can't have excuse for predators. You just can't. You can't sweep it under the rug. And I feel like Wilkerson has done that. And the fact that also Eddie Lapina is still an associate pastor, and he's been there long, very long. He has seen a lot of scandals. He basically has stayed silent when those things took place too. And the fact that he's still on there, I think the first thing Wilkerson should have done was probably remove him and probably open an investigation on him. I think that would have been very powerful for him. But again, I think that Wilkerson is just one of those, I want to look good. I want to look like the superhero that came and saved this ministry and the IFB and from Hyles and all that. But in reality, he's no better. If actually, he's probably worse, because you have Jack Hyles and Jack Schaap, who is openly insane and sexual and predator and like all of that. And then you have Wilkerson, he's a fraud. Like, honestly, he's a fraud. And when you had posted, on, I think, Eric from Preacher Boys had made that Facebook post and you posted that, I was like, oh my gosh, reading those text messages, I was like, Robyn, my heart like broke reading that, because I'm like, wow, the fact that there was just there's just no care, right? But then I thought, perfect timing. Like, how ironic that I'm doing a Hyles series and, that he just said this. It's not like this was years ago. No, this just happened. John Wilkerson flat out, like, this just happened with him and you. And I was like, wow, because I knew that I would have to talk about John Wilkerson.
And this is current times. It's not, this happened years ago. This is right now. There's literally a predator who knows how innocent and naive your kids are that are there. Like, he knows. And am I allowed to say that word on here? Child pornography on his computer that was found. There was a problem there decades before I came. Decades. He has been there since my parents went to college there. Decades and decades and decades. And I kid you not, if you're sending your kid there, just beware, because this is current times.
Yeah, this is 2025. and Wilkerson is still protecting predators.
And yeah, they just got done with college days last week. So they had all these juniors and seniors in high school.
Yep. And it's really, it sucks too, because it hurts God's name when these things take place and these pastors won't stand out and say, hey, this is wrong. Like, I feel like Wilkerson should have been like, hey, you know what, I should have never let him volunteer. He's never going to volunteer, whatever. But the fact that he flat out was like, oh, in the message, it's just like, oh gosh, it's like the red flags are so waving. And I just feel like if you're going to protect a predator, I'm sorry, but I have to question, are you one too, in a way? Because predators protect predators. You see it with, Jack Hyles protecting his son, Dave Hyles, who's a predator and a murderer. And then you have Jack Schaap, who was, married his daughter and was like, oh, under Jack Hyles, I don't know, like under his wing in a way. And he saw all these things, and he probably saw a lot of other people in the church. And he thought, well, nobody's going to ever find out about that. And then, it did come to light, but like, I don't know. I just feel like, how many times does something have to happen for someone just to say, you know what, we're done. We're not going to do this. We're going to start taking these safety measurements. We're not going to let volunteers who have a past in these circumstances or even allegations until there's a full investigation. Like, that's how easy to help protect other future people out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. It's really, it sucks. And and I hate that, for you, because I feel like, you have to feel betrayed by Wilkerson, right? Like,
I definitely did that at first when I saw that. And I was like, you know what? That's them. I don't live there anymore, but I'm going to do something about it to protect the other kids. That's literally what I had to do. I couldn't just stay silent and just ignore it. And that's, unfortunately, just so everybody is aware that if something happens outside of 5 years, they can't touch it. They can't open a case against it, which I hate for the wrong people to hear that and think that they're getting away with stuff. Important, because if you leave that institution, then you need to be aware of, let people know, take to the authorities as soon as possible, because don't wait, because it's just going to keep going on for generations.
Yeah. I've always said that even if it's out of the statutes of limitations and they can't do something about your case, still go report it, because it could have a paper trail where they can say, you know what, this happened 20 years ago. This happened 10 years. It's a pattern, So I've always said that, to report it to the cops. Don't report it to your pastor. They more likely will cover it up. Definitely if you're in the IFB. And I feel like, with Hammond, Indiana, they really do protect a lot of people there at First Baptist Church. I've spoken with a lot of people who say that, detectives have turned them down. Oh, if it's about First Baptist, nope, we're not getting into it. Nope, we're not opening up the case. And it's like, the town still protects them in a way. And so I feel like Wilkerson probably has this almighty feeling that he's protected because he's gotten away with so much stuff. And I don't know, it's just really, it's disheartening to know that someone has literally flat out said, hey, I know that this person's a predator, but hey, we're going to let them volunteer. Like, you're asking for something bad to happen.
Yeah.
And it's like, your blood will be on the line, because these people are looking up to you as the pastor and the one who's in charge for making all the moves and, calling all of it, because, well, in the IFB, that's what your IFB pastor knows it all, and you're supposed to listen. So I feel bad that there is probably so many vulnerable people that have probably experienced something that shouldn't have experienced it. If Wilkerson or Jack Schaap or Hyles or really anyone would have actually did something.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it really sucks. And I know John Wilkerson, again, has a lot of kids. And I always think, like, how many times probably has someone said to him, like, okay, if this was your kid, what would you do? And I would love to know what his answer was. He'd probably be like, oh, we would have reported whatever. Why? Because it's your child. But if it's someone else's, it's like, oh, we'll take care of it. We'll give you biblical counseling. We're going to move him away or whatever. And it's seriously a pattern. It's just a pattern that I keep on seeing in the IFB. They say that they're independent. No, they're not. No, they're not. If you think you are independent, you are not independent. You're not. Everyone is tied with everyone. Everyone knows everything. Everyone, like, it is seriously crazy. Like, I feel like if I were to start like a crime thing, just start pinning everything, it would probably be so overwhelming to the point where I probably would go down a rabbit hole of just like crashing out, of just like, holy macaroni, like there's so many people involved. And I feel like with Hyles, there's probably so many things that really haven't came to light. And I really hope for any survivor out there that stumbles upon this series and goes back and listens on season 1 and season 2. I've had a lot of Hyles people on. I hope that someone out there, feels less alone. They're like, okay, I experienced that too. Or, speaking definitely with the older generation, I can't tell you how many older women that were there in the 70s and 80s that have flat out like said, oh, this Dean of Women, she abused me, or this happened and she called me that, river in the similar areas. And I'm like, hey, this other lady was there, they didn't even know 10 years difference, and they're bonding, they have a friendship because they thought they were alone in it. And it's like, wow, so that's what goes on behind the scenes that a lot of people don't see. Also, when you come out and say something, it's like, oh wait, I'm not alone. And I feel like, like you said, the girl wants to say anonymous, but she came out, it's just like, I don't know, I've always said a predator doesn't just stop at one.
Yeah.
I've seen too many Law and Orders to know that too. I've watched too many crime shows to also know that once a predator, always a predator, and that something is fundamentally wrong with you. And I don't believe that, how the IFB, I guess, and really just in Christianity too, in a way, they always say like God can change everything. I do believe that God can take like certain things away, but I just don't think that on this earth a predator is just gonna miraculously but never have these thoughts. Like,
I agree.
I don't. I don't believe in that. And I know some people do. I don't. I believe, again, that's why they ask, are you going to offend again? They do that test every year when you have to go and take that picture or whatever. Only in Indiana, I guess. Just because I know people that have had to do it. So what are some things that you wish you would have said on season 1 that you have now the, opportunity to say now?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I definitely investigate everything. I have information, and I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of the cults. I'm not afraid of I know that they are the people that are protecting the other ones, they are the ones that have red flags on them right now. And I have spoken with investigators, and I am looking into some things, and it's just a very corrupt place. And yeah, if you are still in it, or if you think that this is a good college, because your kids, they're very protected, they are, and they're not, by the people that are actually in it, running it. So on the outside, and I actually spoke with an investigator, he said, I am very familiar with Hyles-Anderson College. And honestly, he was great, but that gave me a red flag for him, because from the outside, and sadly, like, he sees it as a very successful, in a way, religious, but a organization of, well, they're good people, they work at Chick-fil-A and say my pleasure, so yeah, I mean, just if you're
I always say, if your gut is telling you something, listen to it, research. There's so many other platforms just besides mine that have shared about the IFB abuse, and just, speaking out. There's documentaries out there. And again, you can always like message me on email, and I could always get you in contact with sources, no matter where you're from. I've had a lot of people reach out like, oh, can you research this? So then, we could talk about it, because other platforms. So if you also have that, I'm open to doing that for season 3. But yeah, no, I've had a lot of feedback about the Hyles series, whether that's people saying, oh, I've got it wrong about Jack Hyles. Nothing was proven that he had an affair, and that was just all rumors. And it's just like, no, there was a lot of proof. Proof is in the pudding. Just Google. Google can be your best friend in these circumstances. And I know everyone has that mindset, you can't trust everything. But you know what? If there's actual legal documents and proof, you can't deny that proof. It's one thing if it's a he said, she said, well, okay, yeah, sure. But if there's actual files and proof and, investigations, I feel like you're just delulu and you're just choosing to, turn a blind eye. And I always say that if you turn a blind eye, then I have to start thinking that you agree with it. And I hate that. But yeah. Well, Robyn, it's been such a good discussion talking about, John Wilkerson and, whether people, I probably will have a lot of backlash over it because people will think that, oh, he's this good, godly man. I just don't think so. And there's just a lot of proof to prove that he does not protect their survivors, whether, people like, well, he wasn't there during that time. I understand that, but what he's doing now, that's his responsibility. And we just heard, me call up the phone and them, oh, he'll be here tomorrow, 9/11. It's like, oh my gosh, why? So I just feel like proof is in the pudding. If you want to turn a blind eye, then turn a blind eye. You got to live with yourself with that, and God will judge you. They love playing the God and Bible game. But yeah, so also just before we go, you can order Fearless Flight on Amazon. And I'm really excited to finish it, Robyn, and see where the future holds for you.
Thanks so much. And yes, on the book, one of my biggest focuses is, doesn't matter where you come from, you can still become anything. And yes, the same man who took advantage of me in the cult was the one who introduced me to aviation. That's not even described in the book. This is just special edition right here. But just the stuff that I had to overcome in order to change my life, change my perspective, and just become who I am today. It was definitely a journey, but I just want to encourage, the story isn't over yet. Whatever they can get out, they can change, and they can have a great life. And I still believe in Jesus. I still love Jesus, and I'm not religious, but I have a great relationship with God, and that's the most important thing to me. So thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I always say a relationship with Christ is the most important. And, I also understand why people leave too. It's just, I get it. And it's hard. And it's spiritual abuse, I feel like, is probably one of the worst because it messes with you for sure. Definitely in that environment when you've grown up and you've heard to be a good Christian wife, be a good Christian husband. You do this, you do that, you grow up, you get your MRS degree, like all of that. And then it's like, wait, all of that was lies or manipulation for abuse and control. It does do something, definitely the spiritual aspect of it. But yeah, no, I appreciate you, Robyn, for speaking on today's episode and just kind of sharing a little bit about where you're at now, your book, and also about, your firsthand experiences with John Wilkerson as of literally 2025. So
yes.
Thank you so much, Robyn, for speaking on today's episode.
Of course. Thanks for having me. We'll see you next time.